So tonight's presentation is being hosted by the Yavapai County Master Gardeners. As an organization, we are always looking for new and fun ways to share relevant science-based horticultural information with Yavapai County residents. We are part of the University of Arizona Cooperative Extension, and every county in Arizona has a cooperative extension office. And you may be familiar with some of our other programs, such as 4-H, food safety, nutrition education, STEM and commercial horticultural, and small acreage support. Tonight's presentation is on growing garlic in Arizona Central Highlands. Chef Molly Beverly is our speaker this evening. Molly is a recent graduate from the Yavapai County Master Gardener program and is Prescott's creative food activist and teacher. Molly has taught cooking for over 40 years to adults and children, focusing on healthy, local, and delicious recipes. As Prescott College Food Service Director and chef for 9 years, she has built the food service into a showcase of sustainable, educational, and tasty food. Currently, Molly cultivates a huge organic garden and champions homes, community, and school gardens, food literacy, and food justice through Slow Food Prescott and Slow Food USA. She is a regular writer for Edible Phoenix and Five Senses, I think that's how you say it, magazine.
I think they call it Senses.
Senses, okay.
Yeah.
Take it away, Molly. It's all yours.
Okay, well, welcome everyone. This is an honor and fun. And my background is mainly as a teacher and a chef. I am the chair of Slow Food Prescott, which is a marvelous organization. I want to encourage you all to have a look at slowfoodusa.com or slowfood.org, which is the international organization in 160 countries where they champion good, clean, and fair food. I am a cooking instructor at Yavapai College and have been teaching there since 1976. And I am teaching there again this coming October, which is in a few days, right? And I was food service director at Prescott College for 9 years. And I have been growing garlic since 1983. So there it is, Allium sativum. It's a perennial plant grown as an annual for its hot, pungent tasting and smelling bulb. It originated in West and Central Asia, and it was domesticated over 6,000 years ago. It was cultivated for thousands of years in ancient Mesopotamia, China, Egypt, Greece, and Rome, and is fundamental to a lot of cuisines in Asia, the Middle East, North Africa, Southern Europe, Eastern Europe, and Latin America, and in mine because I love garlic. Garlic was widely used in traditional medicine, and thus the vampire myth. Current medical research is actually inconclusive, I'm disappointed to say, for common cold infections, prostate, intestinal, stomach cancer, and it's being tested for strong antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties, but that's all under research. So I was kind of amazed to see that it was inconclusive. But I will tell you, do not use it. Do not rub it into your skin or put it in any other internal places because it will burn you. So why eat garlic? It's delicious. And now I mainly eat garlic cooked in dishes or fried or simmered, but rarely raw because, except in very small quantities in dips or sauces, because garlic is known to cause bad breath when eaten raw and maybe body odor. And it even gets into your sweat. And that is caused by allyl methyl sulfide, AMS. It's a volatile liquid which is absorbed into the blood. during the metabolism of garlic-derived sulfur compounds. And from the blood, it travels to the lungs, and from there to the mouth, and there's the bad breath. So a recent study, and I mean really recent, like the last couple months, from the Ohio State University journal, Molecules, shows that whole fat plain yogurt, okay, plain yogurt, whole fat Greek plain yogurt might help neutralize garlic breath. Guess what? I had a little cup of that in my refrigerator, and I tried it out yesterday. I chewed up a couple of big pieces of garlic and had some of that whole milk, full fat yogurt. And my husband said it worked. I think sour cream would do the same thing. My husband said it worked. So there you go. You can see the university news story linked at the end of this PowerPoint. So garlic types, here we have elephant garlic. You can see that, that's elephant garlic that I grew. That belongs to the onion genus, and it's much more of an onion than garlic. But I still grow some because it's pretty mild, and you can use it like a vegetable and slice it pretty thickly and have it in a stir fry. And then there is hardneck garlic, and you can see here the hard neck, right? And that is the garlic that makes these stems called scapes. And they've been very popular at the farmers market. If you actually grow this, you have to remove these scapes, because then all the energy will go up into the seeds and not into the bulb. This kind of garlic doesn't actually make seeds. It makes little tiny garlic bulbets or something. Yeah, the name's like that. So this kind of garlic, the hardneck garlic, is very, very cold tolerant and grows in Siberia and Canada, but it will also grow here. It's milder and sweeter than the kind of garlic I usually grow. It's easier to peel, but it does not keep as long. This is a picture of the garlic that I grow. And it is a soft neck silver skin. It doesn't produce flowers or seeds or scapes, which is interesting. A plant that doesn't produce those things. I don't know the botany of that. But about 40 years ago, when I first came to Chino Valley, a wonderful gentleman named Bill Gray gave me a handful of this garlic. And he said that his family had been growing it for 35 years here. So I thought, this is really well acclimated. And we found this garlic perfect for our Chino Valley 3-acre field. And very convenient, we could hire a crew to break the garlic cloves and plant. And then we hired one worker to weed the field in the fall and spring. And then we took care of the irrigation, but we hired a crew to harvest and do the braiding. And after that, only one worker handled cleaning and sorting and filling orders. And at one time, we even expanded to 6 acres. We shipped through cross-country carriers and met the trucks up on I-40. By the way, we used organic practices before there was organic certification, but we did sell to organic suppliers. So we love this variety. We've tested and tasted many others and found this garlic to have the largest cloves, the most pungent flavor, and the best keeping quality. This is the garlic hanging on my kitchen wall, and it will keep there until the next year's harvest. A full year. We love it so much and planted it for so long that we gave it a name, Chino Valley Silverskin. Over this time, we paid back Bill's generosity by sharing it with many other small farmers and backyard gardeners, including Corey and Shanti Raid of Whipstone Farm. So if you want to plant Chino Valley Silverskin, get some at the Whipstone Farm booth at the farmer's market or at whipstone.com. It's the only garlic they grow and the only garlic they sell. And you know what? They grow bigger garlic than me. You want to know why? Because he's a farmer. So he saves the biggest cloves to plant. And I am a chef and I save the biggest cloves to cook. I had to stop that when I saw that his garlic was so much bigger than mine. So here you see a planting in Chino Valley in late fall. This was our summer garden. And at the end of the season, after frost, we turned in the garden and we planted a rye veg cover crop, which you can see on the right. For the garlic beds, we have a tractor plot and we chewed it up and turned in the rye veg in the garlic rows. Then the beds were ripped and rototilled and drip tape laid down and ready for planting. So you might not have a tractor and you might not have a big bed like this, but it's the same idea, even if you have a little pot with a few garlics in it. For a raised bed, lay down some compost and use a garden fork to mix in with soil. I want to say with my slow food, I have a project called Grow Food in Your Backyard. And what I'm seeing, a lot of mistakes that people are making is because they have a raised bed, they fill it up with compost that they buy in bags, and they don't mix it with soil. You should be at least 50-50 soil, maybe more soil. And by soil, I mean dirt, gravel, native soil, what's sitting there. So we don't plant our garlic in the same place every year. We give it a little changeover every couple of years, and we don't put garlic in. The same thing with the other alliums, the other onions. We rotate it around because there are some diseases that you might get that way. This way we avoid it. So here you can see the beds are 42 inches wide. And there are 2 rows of drip irrigation tape. And they have 12-inch emitters on them. And this is set up with timers for consistent moisture. And I can't tell you how important it is to have some kind of drip system on a timer, even in your small beds, because the plants love it.
I can't hear anything.
You can have consistent mulch. Somebody can't hear anything, but I can hear them. I'm assuming that other people can hear me, and I haven't been talking all this time to dead air.
You're good. You're good.
Okay, thank you. So next, here we are. We've right before planting, we break up the cloves. So in this pan here, you see elephant garlic, and this is the Chino Valley Silverskin. And we're very careful about the way we break them open. We have a rubber mallet and a nice cloth base. So we just kind of tap them and separate them. In the center of the bulbs, there are lots of little cloves. We don't use those. Actually, this kind of garlic doesn't have much of that. But you want to use the biggest bulbs and the biggest cloves.
Beverly screen.
So next, you plant these staggered across the drip tape, 6 inches apart. And your spacing is important. If you put them close together, you will not get as good big garlic. And about 2 to 3 inches deep. You can see one here. And then one here, and we'll put one here. We're staggering them. You can see more here and here. And right here, I'll show you, it's got a pointy end and a blunt end. And the blunt end is the root end. The pointy end is the leaf end. And if you put the pointy end up, you're going to feel very good about that. But even if you don't, the garlic will figure it out. So sometimes we're planting a lot, and I'm a little sloppy about that, but it still works. So here you see a different location than that last location. This is a 140-foot row. And this is where we planted this last year. It's probably a lot larger than where you would plant garlic, but we have a garlic fetish. And you don't need to grow this much. This isn't corn. You could grow just a few bulbs. Of course, I always encourage people to grow a lot more than you think you're going to need, because who knows what might happen. You can see the drip tape. And after the plants emerge, we mulch them with 3 to 4 inches of compost or leaves. We use a leaf blower to blow all the leaves that came off the tree and just blow them over on these beds. That's my timer. Okay. So the garlic's going to come up in 3 to 4 weeks. And they will come up and they will keep growing until the weather gets really cold, till midwinter. And they just sit there, they wait out the snow and cold. We've had them out down to 10 degrees, but I'm sure they would do less. I know that the hardneck garlics are grown in Siberia, where the ground actually freezes solid. I don't think they grow the softneck garlics there, but definitely can take our winter temperatures. And by May, you have this. So here you can really see the leaf mulch. You can see these very vibrant, very vigorous big plants. And this is the elephant garlic right here. I just planted a little bit of it. Everything's growing really big and vigorous. And in April or May, we give it 1 application of fish emulsion. I learned this from the Christopher Farms guys over in California, in Gilroy, that is the center of garlic. We went to the garlic festival one year. My husband won first place in the cutting garlic competition. And that was the gem of information we brought back from there, is to give it 1 hit of liquid fertilizer about this time of year. So what does that do? That puts on a lot of leaf growth, and that is all going to go into the bulb, into the garlic bulb, when it starts dying back. Okay. So in June is when you look at it and try to decide when to harvest it. So your leaves will start to brown. So look at this sample. You dig this out, cut it in half, and you're looking for 5 wrappers. So you can see them right here. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wrappers. This one is ready to start drying out. When you have the 5 wrappers, you can turn the water off and leave the garlic for 2 more weeks in the ground, unless the monsoons are threatening. You do not want your garlic to get wet. So if that's happening, you're going to have to pull it out early, because rain, shortens the storage life, and it stains the wrappers. Oh my gosh, wasn't that fun? You might not have a tractor, but you can do the same thing with a digging fork. You want to loosen the ground under the bulbs. And this really shows you the tops are still have quite a bit of green on them, but there are some dry leaves. This shows you the leaf mulch right there. And do not dry the garlic completely in the ground. You want it to have some green, because if it's dried completely in the ground, the bulbs will shatter. Of course, how much green it is when I say this should be like the end of June and I say 2 weeks, but a lot of that depends upon the weather and the heat. And, you know, this June was unusually cold. So then you're in a position to start pulling out the garlic. The head should come up easily without pulling. Leave the tops on and knock off the excess dirt. They should look like this. Then you want to dry them in racks with good air circulation and in the shade. It's very important to dry them in the shade because they will get sun scald and that will essentially spoil them. After 4 to 5 days, they're ready to be braided. If you want to do braids, you want the stems to be limp, but not brittle. If the stems are, well, getting ahead of myself, I'm just moving up here. Okay, 4 to 5 days for braids, and that would dry for 2 weeks for other storage. I just want to mention in July, right after the harvest, you can prepare your soil there and plant a cover crop. I really like black-eyed peas. I like black-eyed peas because I can buy organic black-eyed peas at the store. They come up in about 3 days. You can eat them as sprouts. You can eat the leaves. You can eat the beans at 3 different stages, like they're like green beans or like shell beans or dry beans. And the dry beans actually only take an hour to cook. And of course, they're beans, so they set nitrogen. So black-eyed peas are my favorite choice for putting in after garlic. However, this year I didn't do that because the grasshoppers were there were so many grasshoppers, plague proportions of grasshoppers. So I skipped my black-eyed peas this year. So as for braiding, you want the tops wilted and flexible, not dry and brittle. So you want them wilted because if they aren't wilted and you do this braiding, your braid's going to fall apart. Of course, if it's dry and brittle, you won't be able to braid them. I use 1 string. I'm not going to go into the whole braiding bit, but then you get the neighbor kids to come in and do some braiding, see? And they look so cute. And you can pay them in garlic. So braided garlic with the tops on, or bunched garlic with the tops on, will keep up to a year until your next harvest. The rest of the garlic, after at least 2 weeks in the racks, could sit there longer. Then you want to trim off the roots, brush off the dirt, cut off the stems, and you can sort out the largest heads for replanting. We set aside 30 pounds. Then I take the next batch, the largest heads for replanting, then the next batch for home use. I used to do this the opposite. And the medium ones to give away. And the smallest garlic we dry in a dehydrator and grind up for garlic powder. So the bulbs are now dry enough so that the cloves peel easier. And this is then it's Christmas gifts, or you can save them or sell them. The optimum storage conditions is about 55 degrees with a 50% humidity in a well-ventilated room. Well, we don't have controlled storage, but we have something like that, about 50 degrees and moderate humidity. And the garlic keeps just fine. Do not refrigerate garlic. It gets moldy, it dries out. I bet you have all tried that. So in 2023, we got 200 pounds of garlic from 2 140-foot beds. That's 560 row feet, and that was 30 pounds of seed. So that's our production goal. I think doing my research, the best overall instructions that I found were from Johnny Selected Seed. This is the PDF you can download, and it's listed at the end of this talk. So there's the toasted garlic burger with garlic tahini sauce. And because I have the time, I am going to tell you, because I told you I was a chef, right? So I'm going to tell you how to make this. You peel and mince 1 or 2 whole big garlic bulbs. You'll need at least 1/3 cup minced garlic, but more is better. I like to lightly smash the garlic cloves to get the skins off. And you can use that a side of a knife, or my latest trick is to put them under the edge of the cutting board and lean on it. Once they're crushed, if the garlic's easier to peel, only your fingers are going to be sticky because garlic has a lot of sugar in it. And so you need a little pan of water to rinse off your fingers. So once you get that garlic minced, peeled and minced, you heat a couple tablespoons of olive oil in a small skillet, and you put in all the garlic, and you use a medium heat, and you just stir it until the garden is golden and toasted and crisp. And you can cool it for a few minutes. Then you mix that into a pound of ground beef or some faux beef, some alternative. Put in some salt, some pepper, maybe a little chili powder, and then you mix it up and form it into patties. Fry it in a cast iron skillet. Whoa, thinking ahead of me. Fry it in a cast iron skillet or grill it over a hot fire. And then cut your buns, toast them. These are pretzel buns. They were really good. Toast them and rub each cut side with a clove of raw garlic. This is a good way to make garlic bread too. And then you brush it with a little more olive oil. So if that isn't enough, then you need to have this garlic tahini sauce here. And you take 4 big fat cloves of garlic and mince them up and mix them with a little lemon juice. Set that aside. And you mix this with a third cup of tahini. So tahini is sesame paste, a little salt, a little cumin, and then you put in 5 tablespoons of ice water. And when you mix tahini with ice water, it kind of seizes up and gets thick. So you have a nice, thick, garlicky sauce here to go on your garlic burger and your garlic bun. And put some tomatoes. And oh, those are my onions from the garden, and some red lettuce. And oh, yum. And the recipe is right here from 5 Senses. That's the link to the recipe. We also have garlic production from Heads and Cloves, that PDF from Johnny's Seed. Really good reference. Utah State University, Garlic in the Garden. In case I didn't cover everything, I'm sure I didn't. And Whipstone Farms. They, of course, are at the Prescott Farmers Market, but you might also, if you're not local, you could probably mail order garlic from them. They grow a lot more than I do. And the story on garlic breath with the full fat, September 19th, 2023. I mean, this is recent. Now we can have, you know, Greek full fat yogurt and garlic, and you won't get garlic breath. Pretty neat, huh? Okay, folks.
Molly, you ready for some questions?
I am ready for questions.
Well, first of all, Trish wanted to make a note that scapes are delicious when sauteed. So just add that to the cooking part of it. And Peggy wants to know, when do you apply the fish emulsion?
That would be in April or May, when before it starts drying back, when it's at its fullest spring vigor. You know, I didn't have a picture showing it just popping up, you know, one little stem, one little leaf. But when it looks like it did in that picture, just nice and green, that is a good time to put it on.
Okay, and then after Sue said, after turning off the water, wait 2 weeks to pull them up.
That's right. So of course that would depend upon how hot it is and how dry it is. You saw that picture when it was cut by the tractor. So there's still a lot of green on it, but there are some dry leaves.
So
And
you're
when
watching
you get
it every day, basically.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
And then my question for you is, during the winter, when you talk about watering, do you water your garlic all winter long?
Yes, we
And
water all winter long.
How much do you water it?
Well, we keep it moist but not wet.
Okay. And then, so even with the winter freezing, you have your drip system still on and working?
You know, there have been years when we didn't have to water it at all during the winter. It kind of depends upon what's falling from the sky and the snowpack.
Okay.
So, you know what, if it has that snow on it, like you saw in the picture, no, you don't need to water it.
Okay. How deep to dig? That's from
How
Sue.
deep to mix the mulch into the soil is, I think, what they're
Sue, if
asking.
you want to ask, why don't you unmute Sue and ask your question in more detail?
Molly, when you I wrote that question when you were digging up the garlic. So you said you could hand dig it. So I'm wondering, how deep is the garlic going to be so that you put your tine in and pull them up? How deep are they going to be?
I think they're about 6 inches deep.
Okay, so I just,
You're
And-
gonna put that in around the edge so you don't spear your garlic.
right, but I
And
didn't know
you
if
know
they were
where
gonna
the
go down
garlic is.
big
You're
or
just
not.
loosening the soil so
Okay,
that it will come up easily.
thank you.
Okay, and then I think Carol joined a few minutes late and she wanted to know at what time are we planting our garlic?
The garlic should be planted in October or
Beginning-
November.
Okay, so later October is okay.
Oh yeah, later October is fine. November's fine. December's a little too late, and September is a little too early.
Okay, and my first time I planted garlic, just as a note to most people, I didn't think, although I read about it, that it was 250 days of till maturity. I mean, I planted it in my spring vegetable garden bed, and it's like, okay, I can't plant in this, so plant in the appropriate place, because you're not going to be harvesting this until May, and you might already want to start planting lettuces and stuff in certain places. So
You
figure that out
harvest
before you
it.
plant
You harvest it at the end of June.
at the end of June. So you're
At the end of
really
June.
taking
So
up if you have, like I do, as I have small raised beds that I rotate everything through, it took over my spring gardening the first year I did it.
that's right. And so then, and when it comes out, you have July. So you want to plant then short season hot weather crops. That's when I put in the black eyed peas. There are some bush beans that are very short season. There are zucchini get to short season zucchini. Those things are a good thing to plant after the garlic comes out.
And I was sharing with Molly as we were preparing for this that I did an experiment last year, and I had cloves of garlic that I was planting, and most of them were outside, but I had leftovers. So I put them in some planters in I garden in my garage during the winter with grow lights, etc. And the garlic that I grew in the garage, because it never froze, came out one bulb versus a garlic, a plethora of cloves in. So I was reading that you need a freeze. The freezing process over the winter is what splits the cloves. So if you don't grow in the winter, you won't get the little cloves. You'll get one big bulb.
Yeah, that was, I've always wondered if garlic would grow in Phoenix.
Well, you'll get a bulb.
So, but I am gonna test it out
Okay.
this year. I'm gonna plant it in my greenhouse where it doesn't freeze and see what happens.
And Peggy did share the Five Senses mag.com website with growing garlic. And so thank you, Peggy. And that's all the questions we have, unless somebody would like to chime in. Feel free. Otherwise, I live in, how do you say this? Ajo? AJ.
Ajo.
Ajo. And our climate and dirt is so different. And
Right.
Emily
And
says,
you
yes,
know,
you can grow garlic in Phoenix.
okay. And you should be able to grow garlic in Ajo because Ajo means garlic. However, it probably got that name from wild garlic, which would be like a wild garlic chives. So that's interesting. Yeah, I have never tried to grow garlic in Phoenix, and I'm interested to see how that works. So I'm going to test it out in my greenhouse.
And Linda Guy says she also grew soft neck garlic in Phoenix. Oh, and then
Good.
Peggy also asked, besides fish emulsion in April, May, is there any other fertilizers that we're going to use to grow garlic?
That's the only thing I use because I cover crop it.
Okay.
So you want to make sure you can use a cover crop, you can use well composted soil, and I don't use artificial fertilizers. But you want to make sure that it's a heavy feeder. You want to make sure that you're putting it in soil that has a good setup.
And question is, how do you keep rabbits out? Do rabbits like garlic, or is it sort of one of those stinky plants that they leave alone?
We haven't had trouble with rabbits, but we do have trouble with gophers.
Okay.
And then you need to have a very good gopher trapper like my husband. Yes. Or yeah, the usual gopher problem. But you know, any rabbits is the same thing. Put out a have a heart trap and start trapping them. We also have we have an electric fence that we put up, but we usually don't put it up for the garlic.
Okay, Tricia noted
for
that pack rats
javelina.
can dig it out, but they generally will leave it alone. And then Melody asked, how can you tell the difference between hard neck and soft neck garlic?
Well, you can feel the hardneck has the stem coming out of the middle.
Okay.
And so there's a hard stem in there. Even if you buy it in the store, it'll still have that hard stem.
Okay. Any more questions? So with that, I'd like to thank everybody for joining us this evening. Our next Zoom presentation will begin in January. We take the holiday season off, and so we wish you a great rest of the year and happy winter gardening if you are doing so. And there's a lot of thank you, Molly's, for an excellent presentation.
Well, it's been a lot of fun. I really enjoyed doing this, and I'm sure I will see you all around.
All right.